Well, for more, let's go to London now and speak with our UK correspondent, Jonathan Sacerdoti. And Jonathan, the UK ambassador there in Moscow and the US basically boycotting the meeting that called by Russian Foreign Ministry. What is the strategy in the UK there?
Indeed, the UK, the US, Germany and France didn't send their ambassadors, but lower-level representatives. And Sweden, Germany and France all stood up in defence of Britain, saying that they were in solidarity with the UK and its investigations. So there does seem to be a strategy now of the two countries, Russia and the UK, locking horns and trying to gather as many allies as they can to back up their side of the debate here. Russia, of course, in that meeting had Venezuela and Serbia on side, but on the main part, various countries there in attendance were, to some extent, supporting the British position and the British investigation into what is now being seen increasingly internationally as a Russian poisoning on British soil.
Just how much does the UK need other countries, not even just the EU, in order to formulate its response? Is the UK response alone really good for anything against the Kremlin?
The UK can't be isolated in its response. I think that's been the concern of Theresa May and the government all along. They don't want to be seen as the only country bucking a trend or the only country to hold Russia to account. And I think they're not short of allies who wish to hold Russia to account. Simply put, though, it's not necessarily going to be that easy. The world is not what it once was. And there is that realization among British politicians and others abroad that in order to teach Russia a lesson, so to speak, tough actions need to be taken. And it's going to be brave governments that will decide to take those actions. Some criticism here in the UK that the reluctance to take tough actions rather than just to talk tough against Russia has been partly due to the importance of Russian money, particularly in the city of London, where there is an awful lot of Russian money in property and banking and other areas. And there has been some suggestion that Britain has been reluctant until now to forego that money.
And Jonathan, not only tough talk towards Russia, but also towards Facebook. Another investigation is underway in the UK, also with major implications all the way to Washington. This week, EU leaders are meeting in Brussels to look at that scandal over how data of some 50 million users was harvested from Facebook and then used by British data firm Cambridge Analytica, a firm who played a role in the Trump campaign. British Prime Minister Theresa May spoke out on that today.
What we have seen in Cambridge Analytica, the allegations are clearly very concerning, and it is absolutely right that they should be properly investigated. It's right that the Information Commissioner is doing exactly that, because people need to have confidence in how their personal data is being used. And I would expect Facebook, Cambridge Analytica and all organisations involved to comply fully with the investigation that's taking place.
Jonathan, if we're talking tech giants, the EU really has shown itself to be much tougher than the United States in terms of regulation and privacy issues. What do you think we can expect from that meeting in Brussels this week?
Well, we have to look carefully at what's going to be done in that meeting in Brussels. And it's not just about data, it's also about tax. There's also big arguments to be had with these big internet technology giant companies about where they pay tax and how much tax they pay. Britain is not alone in wanting them to pay more tax and to use less tax avoidance in order to minimize their tax bills. In terms of the data, the Digital Culture, Media and Sport Committee of the UK Parliament has written to Mark Zuckerberg and asked him to come and answer their questions. That committee carries out inquiries into areas of current interest like online safety. They'll be taking also, the British government will be taking that battle to Europe, as you say, to try to get a coordinated response, because these corporations, importantly, are international. They work across the world, and users on these platforms are situated around the world. So the response Britain feels alongside its allies needs to be an international response as well.
Right. Certainly, it's a social media platform that has no borders, and there maybe shouldn't be borders in the attempt to fight it and protect privacy. Jonathan Sacerdoti in London, great to have you with us.